Hi.
Hey Karen, how are you?
I'm very good, Lori. I'm honored that you have kept on me to make this happen.
Yeah, I'm kind of strategically like that. I don't give up on people too quickly.
Yes. Well, I've said many times that I used to have a boss, and I can just briefly go into some of my background. But when I was in the business world, I had a boss that would tell me, "You have so much to share, Karen. You need to share more." And I don't. People have to pull me out of my shell. And, compared to 30 years ago or when I was in my 20s, going through this menopause, there are a lot of positive aspects to getting older and being in your 50s and 60s where, just a certain confidence develops. But yes, I'm still in the thick of things trying to figure out some health issues. So you pulled me out of my shell today, got me all dressed up relatively.
Well, you look beautiful. You look marvelous. So,
So do you.
yeah, I took a shower today. Thank you. And I do have clean clothes on. Okay.
Yes.
Looking back on menopause for me, because I had emergency hysterectomy.
Oh.
Yeah, when I was 39, I had
Mhm.
a tumor that within 24 hours, it looked like I was 4 months pregnant. It was a rare tumor. And I begged the doctor over and over and over again, please do not take my ovaries if they're fine.
Mhm.
And she's like, well, I'm going to take your cervix. And I said, if it's fine, leave it. Please leave it. Because they
Yeah.
knew they were going to take the uterus.
Mhm.
Yeah. But the whole hormonal thing, along with brain injury during that surgery,
Yeah.
which is a whole other story. But it was a true loss for me. And um, so I have another, my story is different than your story, where,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Did you, so that threw you into menopause at 39? Did you
not
have hormonal
not
imbalances?
I did have hormonal imbalances, but I did have hormones because they kept my
Okay.
ovaries
Okay.
and they were functioning. So I did have, it was just a different way that I don't even know how to describe menopause.
The average, based on my studies, what I remember, the average age for menopause is 51. Now I'm 56 right now, and I went into full-on menopause 3 years ago, so I was 53.
Mm.
And for the last 2 decades, I've had a very clean lifestyle, cleansing lifestyle. So I don't know, my mom isn't alive to ask, so I don't know where she was at. But but yeah, most women actually from my what because I've just done such a deep dive on this topic of hormones because this year, really in the last few months, because my life has gotten to a point where I mean, I was scaring my husband, like I didn't feel like living. I mean, my quality of life was just diminished, and hot flashes every 30 minutes was just part of it. I've had up and down moods, kind of low moods my whole life. But as you know, we're both intuitive and work intuitively. And I just got a impulse that I needed to go on to hormones. And it was something like, I do not go to doctors. I haven't been to a doctor since 2005, 15. I went in and I asked for just some routine blood tests. Everything was fine. And I hadn't been back since. I went back to the same HMO recently after doing some research. Actually, I won't share that, but I use medical doctors when I know what I'm going in there to ask for. So I I am very questioning of all things authority, and I'm very questioning of medicine, allopathic medicine, including some natural medicine. It's like everybody's on their own journey. So I finally went down this hormone replacement therapy um, rabbit hole. And it is kind of a rabbit hole with layers of, I really wanted to understand it. And I pretty quickly came across this very huge study called the Women's Health Initiative that was done in the early 1990s. And I mean, it was on tens of thousands of women. And because I'm always looking for the alternative to the mainstream story, I very quickly found that the PR that came out of it right away was very misleading. And it's kind of my belief that women, this is since the 1990s, uh, got scared away from any type of hormone. Like it was just in the collective for us, like, oh, any hormone replacement therapy causes cancer, and there was very strong publicity that said just that, that scared women and doctors away. Like the prescriptions from it went way down. But I also came across there were flaws in the study, and one huge one that I've gone down different layers of rabbit hole was that I can't remember the estrogen, because there's natural hormones that are there's bioidentical hormones that you can take that match the chemistry of the human body. They're still made in a lab, not necessarily all by prescription. And then they're synthetic. So it was mostly they were testing estrogen and progesterone. The progesterone they used was synthetic. I think it was called, well, one of the synthetic progesterones is Premarin, made from horse urine, you know? Anyway, the effects of, as I've just in the last few days, I have come across even more new information where light bulbs were just going on in my head, that I lost my train of thought where I was going with this. There's just layers.
Well, you were talking about the synthetic and the organic in that sense of,
For yes,
yeah, choices and things like that, and then the cancer realm of, how that was spun, because I
yes,
remember that. I remember it vividly.
yeah. So my first thought on it was, oh, it's just trying to get women to not do any hormone replacement therapy. And some of us really suffer and really suffer a lot. And it's just not helpful at all. So I was able to, I found a doctor outside of the HMO. I paid out of pocket for a consult, but I actually, when I called her, she's like a telemedicine. She specializes in hormones, but she bases everything on the standard of care, which is still goes back to this flawed study. But I went in there knowing I wanted a prescription to estrogen and bioidentical estrogen and progesterone. And I got it. I got it that same day. And that was almost 3 months ago. And she put me on very low doses, and it almost immediately took away my hot flashes. So I was just very, very grateful. But I kind of, after being on it for maybe a month or two, I kind of felt the hot flashes coming back a little bit. And I continued to study. Like everything I would read about progesterone is very protective. And that was kind of my understanding from before. And I, on their health portals, I asked if she would raise the progesterone, because, I've got a few. It didn't solve all my symptoms. It did nothing for my energy levels. It did nothing for my moods. So I asked her if she would raise the progesterone, and she said, no, the progesterone is just as dangerous as the estrogen you're on. And I do not agree with that, because I think a lot of doctors have, some of them you just have to, it is what it is. They are bound to operate by the standard of care and not to really dig out the truth. But that's based on so many studies of progesterone that were actually done on the synthetic. And so what I have, yes, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and
yeah.
the natural progesterone you can get over the counter, but it's hard to find in high enough doses because
Doses.
I've tried those creams for years. They don't do anything.
Yeah.
What?
So it's interesting because as you were talking intuitively, I kept getting the synthetic is what threw it off, the
Yeah.
study off. And then so the real study needs to be still done.
Yeah. Well, I think there was a lot of research before this women's health initiative, and natural progesterone has been used in like the early 1900s even. And what I found this man, and now he's maybe known more for diet, his diet principles, and I don't know what people have to say. His name is Ray Peat, and he's passed away. He was born in 1936, so he's an old man. He passed away, I don't know, less than 10 years ago. And his PhD was on progesterone.
Mm.
And he has a website, he has many followers, and he cites studies. I mean, I have been digging into his articles, and he sees this. I haven't read it exactly, but I get the sense that he sees this women's health initiative study as a way to bash progesterone and ultimately, with the bioidenticals available, boost estrogen sales and create more faulty scientific studies that are misleading doctors, misleading women, and Suzanne Summers is out there promoting, getting on bioidentical everything. And he is not in favor of the bioidentical estrogen. I actually, in thinking about, we were talking about this, I'll mention his website because your listeners can do their own research if they're going through menopause, or I'm actually really researching this to try to help my 23-year-old daughter as well. So she doesn't have to go through what I have been going through, but it's raypeat.com,
And spell it.
RAYPEAT.com. And then I've also been digging into, and you can do a search, there's a forum, raypeatforum.com, something like that, or forums. Anyway, it has a lot of articles on just his main website. And let
Karen, I
me,
want to ask you, Ray Peat, and Peat is
yes,
PEAT.com.
yes.
Okay. And who's facilitating his studies and his work and his work right now? Is anyone?
Well, he's passed,
I
and
know.
he has a huge following. And again, I'm just digging in on the hormone side,
Okay.
but he has been a professor. He did his research, it started in the 60s,
Mm.
and he had taught at different universities internationally. I think University of Montana, Oregon, somewhere in Mexico. Um, and so every article that I've come across is cites scientific studies. So I don't know if he's actually doing the studies and getting funded to do the studies. He's reading the studies and putting it together.
Yeah,
And
he's putting the pieces together.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
He's a detective
yes.
in that way of troubleshooting. And yeah, he had his theory, and I think he was finding the evidence to prove his theory.
Yeah, you getting a good feel about him?
Yeah, I do. That's why I'm wondering who's facilitating. There's got to be something that's facilitating what he's left behind if he's passed.
Well, somebody's keeping his website up, and there
Exactly.
are many followers. You can get on and read forum comments,
Okay.
and you can see that there's a message at the top, they are switching over to a paid subscription, but you can still see the comments even though you don't pay. You just can't write, and they wanted to weed out bots and things like that.
Okay.
But there's a lot of people on this forum, and um, a lot of science is cited. And from reading different women's experience with menopause on it, I can just say each of us is different. I
Yes.
mean, maybe there's something in the lineage, but every woman, it's like one size does not fit all.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is Ray Peat realized that natural progesterone was a protective hormone and that it can safely be supplemented in the body. And here, let me, and that estrogen is not safe like we're being told by many doctors that are open to prescribing according to the standard of care that they're bound by. So in experiments, progesterone was found to be the basic hormone of adaptation and resistance to stress. The adrenal glands use it to produce their anti-stress hormones, and when there is enough progesterone, they don't have to produce potentially harmful cortisone. That's one of my key problems, is too much cortisol over the years. In a progesterone deficiency, we produce too much cortisone, and excessive cortisone causes osteoporosis, aging of the skin, damage to brain cells, and the accumulation of fat, especially on the back and abdomen. Now, I'll have to say about osteoporosis, maybe 2 years ago, I started working with a remote viewer. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
one of the exercises she had me do was to create my own chart. Like, I use kinesiology in my energy practice to test into different things that can imbalance the body. But she was being told, my spirit wanted me to create a chart that included sort of, I guess the question would be, and I would have to be careful if I worked with clients because I'm not a doctor, I'm a health coach, and
Yeah.
but what direction are you going towards if you were going towards a diagnosis? So I had all kinds of things on there: diabetes, heart disease, and I had osteoporosis on there. I mean, there was a lot that I was putting on there, and some were just symptoms too. But for me, I did it for myself, and this was a few years ago. Osteoporosis kept coming up. Like, I knew that's what I could be going towards. And I started drinking raw milk and really feel like the raw milk helped me. Last month, I went to the dentist for the first time in a while, and the dentist kind of gave me confirmation that my bones are losing, that I've lost, how do you say it? That I'm losing bone mass.
Density.
Bone.
Density.
Yeah, he
Oh, yeah.
told me that. He's like, you teeth don't look so good. I mean, I didn't really like them, so I canceled my next appointment. That's just me. I really think to myself, for myself, when it comes to dealing with doctors. But he gave me information that validated a point. And then I'm reading this Ray Peat stuff saying that it's not the progesterone. Progesterone is protective. It's the estrogen that, in any form, it's very easy to call, to create bioidentical estrogen, apparently, and you can read more on his website. But so I actually, and I would never tell a client to go against what a doctor had put them on. I actually took myself off the estrogen 2 nights ago because I feel so strongly about this. And yeah, and the other thing is, you might know this, there's a pathway for these hormones that starts with cholesterol, and then it goes to a master hormone is pregnenolone. And from pregnenolone, you can either have a lot of stress in your life with the high cortisol, which I know was me. It can go directly down and use that pregnenolone for cortisol and stress instead of making the sex hormones, progesterone, DHEA, testosterone, which both men and women need. And so, so I lost my train of thought again, Lori.
But it's okay. What I feel is, boy, first of all, I want to commend you,
Oh,
because when you're on that path, like I'm getting emotional over it because it's um it's very lonely because
well,
you're asking the right questions and you're intuiting that they're giving the wrong answers for
mhm.
your body
Yeah,
and for you. And for you to follow through and to trust your way of finding out and researching what's right for you, it not everyone can do it.
I know. I know. That's why I said I am an extreme case. Like I will, I just I don't trust doctors at all. And I use them when I need to use them. I've gone to two, actually three in the last few months, but I knew why I was going in there. Knew what I was after. And oh, I got blood work done too between the hormone specialist and my regular primary care at the HMO. I got a whole bunch of blood work done, and of course, they told me everything looked fine. I was like,
Right. I know that.
I guess
I know the stories.
that's
I know
good.
I understand the trauma through that. And I've even had tests, all kinds of tests that have come back, and and then a week or two later they call me and they say, "Oh, I am so sorry, but that was not the correct results for your test. We gave you someone else's test results."
Oh,
And that's happened more than once for me.
wow.
Yeah, on very emotional, you know,
Well,
testing.
you've been doing big stuff since 39, and yeah.
Oh no, even before that, I was already doing stuff in my 20s.
Okay.
Yeah. I was on the wellness thing of in high school even. Yeah. So um the other thing I was going to say is, I'm hearing you talk about the doctors, but it's also the system of the science hooked into the studies and who's getting paid out and
Yeah.
all of those things that has undermined the truth
Yeah.
and who's getting what laboratory or what prescription company is
Yep.
on the board of you know you know what I mean,
Oh, exactly.
who's lobbying who's sleeping with whom.
Yeah, and I remember what I was going to say when I was explaining that pathway. You can buy natural pregnenolone, which is the top of the chain, over the counter. You can buy, and you have to know what you're buying and what you're looking for because it's not the creams that they sell at Vitamin Cottage. You can buy natural progesterone and know how to smartly supplement it. Now, right now, over the counter, right now, I'm going to stay on the prescription progesterone, but I have, I just ordered something off of Amazon, and some we got really good quality reviews as a pregnenolone, and I've researched the dose, what I wanted to start with. The advice is always to start small and go up when you're starting anything. But you can get these things over the counter. And, when I first started looking into the hormones, I had asked my sister about it. And I think and I found out my sister took Young Living actually has some really nice hormones for support during menopause. I've gone back and looked at them. They're super pricey, but my sister was on these Young Living supplements that included a very nice progesterone. And so we do, most of us, I think, do need some kind of help. I mean, maybe I'm sure there's those that don't, but for me, I just realized my life was getting smaller and smaller and smaller. I shut down half my wellness practice in March of 22, and it just got, and that was sort of a message from God, I think, to work on some other things,
Yeah.
legal, law related, and I'm a mom, and I still have the energy side of my practice. But my life had just been getting so small, and it happened over time. And then I just woke up a few months ago, like I said, like my quality of life is abysmal. I have to do something about it. And thank goodness intuition kicked in, and I've got a smart mind, and I really know how to weed through the stuff on the internet and not throw the baby out with the bathwater a lot of times,
Right.
where you might not agree 100%, but maybe there's something there. And that's where you just use your intuition.
Right. And so some of the things, may I ask, are some of the things synthetic when you're talking about over the counter? Or
No, no. Now
those are the
they are all, let me clarify on the progesterone. The natural progesterone that works needs to be USP. That's some pharmaceutical grade. It is made in a lab, but it's bioidentical natural progesterone that does come from wild yams.
yeah, I was that's what I kept getting. I think.
You can't just use some ground up wild yam. That doesn't work. There is something they do in the lab. I've learned that. So I'm sure there's products out there that they sell and market for menopause that are not USP progesterone or that are synthetic. And
Mhm.
you have to watch that too.
Yeah.
So you're looking for natural. Ray Pete made because he was so behind um, this belief in progesterone being protective for women and the misinformation, especially about estrogen out there. He has a formula. It's called Progest E, and I found this company through the forums, the Ray Peep forums. It just happens to be based in Boulder. I mean, people on these forums are international. So I'm probably going to try it. It's a 10% progesterone dissolved in vitamin E. Now, I mentioned Young Living too, and I think they have a beautiful progesterone, high quality progesterone that's dissolved in vitamin E, as well as they add their essential oils. It's
Yeah.
twice the cost of the Ray Peat stuff. So,
Well, you and I both have Young Living Oil
oh, right. Yeah.
connections because if you order it from it, people can order under you. So um, we can put that on there. I had a question about that was very helpful. I know. So is that something that you would drink or a cream? Like is most of this stuff capsules or creams or a mixture of things?
So the Ray Peat formula is sold in a 34 milliliter bottle, and it's by the drops. And if you get on this website, that I'm sure there's a few places that sell it, but the one that I found that's Boulder based, we can put that link in the notes as
Sure.
well. They have detailed information about how to take it. It's in your mouth. The idea is to absorb it
Yeah.
sublingually, so it
Yeah.
doesn't have to go through the liver, processing by the liver.
Right.
Um,
Right. Or
yeah,
or the gut or anything. It just goes
yeah,
straight in the blood
yeah,
system. Um,
yeah.
that's great. Sublingual is, I feel, the best. Some of the stuff when it's a cream, even, just the contamination or the spreading with your partner, let's say, you
Mhm.
have the cream on, then they pick up, and then pretty soon they have more, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like, how do you be mindful about that? I mean,
Yeah.
it's it's definitely
Apparently a favorite place if you do. So I was searching on the Young Living product, the progesterone product. It's an oil and by the dropper, and they say apply it topically. I don't know where they recommend,
usually stuff like that is like on
on the
the
wrist.
inside
Yeah,
of your wrist or the
exactly.
inside of your thighs. Like,
Yeah.
it's trying to keep it where it's
Yes.
you're not bumping up into people.
Yes.
Yeah.
This doctor, I think his name is Purser. I'm half impressed with him. He wrote a whole Q&A on this particular product. Yeah, I know. I'm
I know,
like,
I love you for this. I can be pretty hard on some stuff too, and I love how you dig in and you just tell your truth. So just keep going.
well, he said, we tell people just to apply it topically, but we don't expect that somebody's not going to try to take it by mouth. And the read between the lines was it's safe.
Yeah.
Um, the gum line apparently is a nice place to apply it
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Anywhere right inside here
mhm.
or right
Oh
underneath
yeah.
your tongue.
Now, yeah, and so the prescription progesterone that I'm on are gel caps, and I chew it. Right, I like bite it, and I just let it try to dissolve in my mouth because I've had that principle since day one.
Yeah, that's
The
great
doctor
because
told me to swallow it.
yeah.
So,
Well,
okay.
yeah, as soon as you
So,
Oh, you naughty patient, you. Oh, it's so when it's good that we've come this far to learn to trust what
yeah.
we're going through, to trust our body, to trust the when someone's saying the words at us and everything in us is saying, I don't, I got to do more work on this because I don't get,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not
Let
right.
me I want to just say something about one other quote.
Yeah, bring it.
Because I printed out three of these and it was just very interesting. Because a lot of women could come back and say, well, my doctor did test my estrogen levels, which is blood serum levels, and it was low. Well, this is what Ray Peat has to say about that. The estrogen replacement industry is based on the doctrine. He has a whole different view of why we go into menopause anyway from the start. The industry is based on the doctrine that a woman's tissues are depleted of estrogen after menopause. This doctrine is false. The concentration of a hormone in the blood doesn't directly represent the concentration in the various organs. The amount of estrogen in tissue is decreased when progesterone is abundant. In the absence of progesterone, which I think starts declining very early, I think in our 30s, um, in the absence of progesterone, tissues retain estrogen even when there is little estrogen circulating in the blood. I mean, yeah, there's all kinds of debate that, which kind of test do you do? Do you do blood serum? Do you do urine? Now there's like
Saliva.
blood spot, there's urine spot, the kits that you can do at home. You can do the hair mineral.
Analysis.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
So anyway, that just he does not believe women are low estrogen going into menopause, which is interesting. Now, this doctor that I'm working with, she didn't even test. She went by symptoms, and I was very happy with that in the beginning because I just wanted the prescription. As I said, I went in there with a mission. But in the follow-up, when she was willing to do the full thyroid panel and ask for testosterone and sex hormone binding globulin, she wasn't willing, she didn't even think to test. Well, let's just see. You've been on progesterone and estrogen. Let's see where you're at to confirm. No, we haven't tested.
Wow.
We haven't tested that. So, yeah, like I said, I'm really resonating with this work, and I am the kind of person that will take full responsibilities for my action. And I'm probably paying the price for some wrong decisions that I've made 20 years ago, too, where I'm trying to make up the nourishment. But yeah, I took myself off the estrogen because I think I have been, well, my daughter has been told by a functional medicine doctor that she's estrogen dominant. She's my daughter. I'm pretty sure I was estrogen dominant.
Mhm, mhm.
I think a lot of women are. So I think I've got, yeah. So we'll see. I did read one thing, and I've read so much. It was somewhere on the forum. There might be, I don't want to someone to watch this and just say, well, she went off of estrogen. There might be a reason why you would stay on bioidentical estrogen. And so really do your research, find a practitioner that you could work with. I'm looking, I would love to find a practitioner that could just help me a little bit more, move this process faster. But yeah, so I
And
just wanted to say that.
I so appreciate it. And I'm curious in any of those studies if there was any gut stuff related
I
that
have
you
not
remember.
read anything on Ray Peat, but I am, as soon as I got on the bioidenticals, I just started thinking to myself, because I've run my wellness practice for 50, since 2010.
Mhm.
What's upstream from this? I don't want to be on prescriptions, even though it was sounding like some women say that really do well on the bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. They're like, yeah, you can be on that the rest of your life. That doesn't really sit well with me. So one thing I learned a long time ago, and I said it way before I was in menopause, was if you're starting to have menopause symptoms, perimenopause symptoms, work on your liver. Make sure your liver is, functioning at a high level, because a congested liver, and our liver takes so much abuse these days. And I thought I have lived a cleansing lifestyle since 2007. Before that, I was a foodie. As you know, I went to cooking school, and I didn't eat the junk food or the McDonald's since I was probably 18. But in 2007, I started juicing and doing colonics and, making sure everything was moving out and eating a probably too cleansing of a diet and not building in enough minerals. But I
Mhm.
had done, in the course of all those years, I had done probably 8 liver flushes
Mhm.
that were good. But one thing I learned, and when I went through my master herbalist program, we did a Chinese nail, face,
Yep.
and tongue
Yep.
class. This little line, you can even see it. This has never gone away. This is a liver line. I think I was born with liver congestion. I have not fully dealt with liver congestion. So that's been a whole nother issue that I have been thinking about passionately in the last few months.
Yeah.
Um, and I have put myself on a supplement
Mhm.
a week ago.
Mhm.
to see the medical term when bile gets sludgy and backed up is cholestasis. So
Mhm.
I would say, because I've dealt with some elimination issues my whole life that have never completely resolved, my gut issues have never completely resolved, that I have some level, I mean, based on this, of cholestasis,
Mhm.
subclinical cholestasis. My liver enzymes looked good on the labs I did. So I was worried that the liver enzymes were going to be high, but they weren't.
So
Um,
what about parasites in the liver?
that's a possibility. That's definitely a possibility. I okay, you want to kind of do a segue? I listened to one gal that I went to the herbal school with
Mhm.
locally here. It was in
Yeah.
Arvada.
Mhm.
Um, she has gotten into live blood cell analysis in the last 18 months. And I just listened to an interview of
Mhm.
her on this very local,
Public radio sort of thing, or what's
yeah, kind of like
okay.
non-discreet, not where they're going to get censored. They can talk about anything. And she was in hour two. She was with another guy from Boulder, and they were both being interviewed. But the focus was on her, what she is seeing in people's blood that come to her. Most of her clients are unvaccinated with the you know what,
Mhm.
um, is really congested, icky things showing up on the microscope that have never showed up before. Everybody's getting mixed up
Yeah.
and getting
Yeah.
shedded on.
Yep. This is not the first time. I was just listening to something else today, and synchronicity fits in. But I've known this and through the years that this was happening, but just again confirmed where even what is being eliminated is nothing anyone who are specialists in the worms and the parasites and
Yeah,
have named 17
yeah,
parasites that they've never been, like the specialists of specialists in,
yes.
I want to say in, is it in Israel? I can't remember what country this one specialist from. Totally new ones, totally ones that actually have human DNA in them.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Wow. Well, she mentioned her teacher who has a Substack. If I can quickly get to it, this is fascinating, but I will say something very positive.
Yes,
She
please.
has, so she works with these clients and then asks them she puts them on a cleansing protocol. And they come back typically come back 3 months later. She's able to get the blood cleaned up to
It's
a decent level. And one thing that they were talking about that they use that I've heard of for years, and in IV form is quite dangerous, and you really need to work with somebody that knows what they're doing. In IV form, there's many different forms. It's EDTA, it's a chelation agent for heavy metal
Yep,
toxicity,
exactly.
and it pulls a lot more than just the heavy metals. So you really need to be supplementing with minerals. But there's different forms. The IV, I came across this a few years ago. There's suppositories. If you want to go the back end, both those ways you need to be working with somebody that is
And
guiding you.
and just know the back way is as absorption
Oh,
levels
totally.
is totally a high absorption.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's as effective, if not more so effective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now what I hadn't heard of is she's using a cream, a topical cream, and that is the most gentle way to use this EDTA. So I might ask her about it. Um, we've
Um,
traded sessions
yeah,
before.
I really am interested in learning more about her. I don't want to announce her name on this because I don't want
No,
her inundated with anything else. And maybe maybe she'll want to come on at some point. But
I bet you would.
yeah,
Let me give you, well, the gal's
Substack.
name
Is
that is her teacher that's putting a lot of this stuff on these anomalies on Substack.
yeah.
It's a Dr. Anna, A-N-A, and I'm not even going to pronounce the last name. I'm going to spell it. Capital Mihalcea, MD, PhD.
So she's an MD and a PhD.
Yes.
So she's a scientist for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
But they're also using, something that's more accessible, and I picked up during, what we've gone through since 2020 is nattokinase, an enzyme that you can take, especially between meals, and it will work to kind of eat up some of this stuff.
yeah.
Um,
Well, it's interesting because my oldest son and I both have a hereditary disorder of our liver. We were born with
oh,
it. And so our bile isn't the same as, it just doesn't, I, for, I forget how the bile works because it's just always been there. I just don't hang on to what it does or doesn't do. And they're like, oh, it's no big deal. 3% of the population have this. And it's like, yeah, but it, see, that's, those are things that I don't trust,
yeah. Let me
that,
tell you this about the bile that I've come to understand a lot better. So the bile is excreted out of the gallbladder when food enters, leaves the stomach, and it helps break down fats, and it escorts the toxins out. Like it attaches the toxins are attracted to the bile, and so as it moves out of the small intestine, and makes its way out of the body wants to reabsorb this toxic bile. And so if you are going through a cleanse, a heavy metal cleanse, or a cleanse where you're trying to excrete stuff out of the body, it potentially just, and I never really thought about that reabsorption
yeah,
of the toxic bile.
it totally boomerangs.
It totally boomerangs. So one simple thing is to charcoal. I mean, there's
Yeah,
a lot of different binders out there.
yeah,
Um,
I'm on charcoal every day.
yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah, and
for those people who don't know what charcoal is, I'm not gonna,
activated
yeah.
charcoal can
Mine
and
is mine is like coconut shells.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It can be made with coconut or wood.
Mhm.
Um, And the activated is they put it through some extra processing so it has a greater surface area. And it's kind of a catch-all for most of the heavy metals out there, except for I'm not sure about lead. Lead seems to be a unique one. But in terms of what she was seeing on the blood, the synthetic things, the weird things, I would try that. I also have a very, very special bentonite clay that I've recommended. Have I ever recommended it to you?
Yeah, but my little supplement has it all together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is very special because it has extra special drawing powers, and it doesn't absorb. If somebody is going to take it internally, which they have to do, it's not sold as that. So you have to do your research
Yeah.
and, start small. Um, I've had very constipated clients in the past that were able to take decent sized doses, and it actually helped their constipation. That is not the case for any other type of clay. Clay normally swells. This is a non-swelling, extra drawing clay. So
Yeah.
I've been taking a little of that and charcoal
Yeah.
because I started this liver supplement myself.
Yeah, the supplements that I got, I can't even tell. I just moved them from my right beside me to the kitchen because I was talking to Tyler about them. Literally right before we started. But it's something I found online intuitively.
Mm,
And I went, yep, I need this. And they're in Florida. And there's a word
yeah.
for it, I think, in there. But Yeah, they have these capsules that I take in the morning and in the evening, and they're different, and they have the even the right salts.
Oh, nice.
And so and all the binding, the same clay that you use, they have it in there.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Yeah,
But I
and I
don't
would
like their
just,
capsules because I think there's dye on their capsules.
oh, can you open it up?
Yeah, I can open them up. Mhm.
Yeah, I would just say for anybody listening, when you're taking binders, you just really have to go slow and make sure that things continue to move out the other end into the toilet. There's always a balancing act. You could add some movers short term, some good quality movers that, you know, uh, you could buy at Vitamin Cottage. I've got a
For
few.
those, is Vitamin Cottage just in Colorado, or is it
Oh,
now
I think it's regional.
natural
Natural
grocers?
grocers. Yeah.
That's
You can buy it online too.
yeah.
You know, I studied with Dr. Morse and he's got some nice stomach and bowel formulas. So, and he's got different levels and, you know, like number two, I used to make, no pun intended. He's got different levels from 0 to 5. And number two is this gentle formula that I've made and sold for clients. It's a wonderful formula, but you can buy them in capsules on his website.
And then there's always Smooth Move tea.
Oh, right. Yes, although
It can be pretty strong.
Senna is like the one mover that I usually, as when it's the main ingredient, it's like you said. Yeah, it's very strong.
Can be very strong and not
Yeah.
gentle at all.
No, no,
So so
no.
so if you seep it in a big container, right? So then you can only take one glass and see how it
Oh,
works.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm saying the
yeah,
dose is different. You can't really dose it, you can't.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's like you could do it in the sun, make it sun tea, and then take just a smaller glass or something like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, we went there. We went there all to 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 5. Uh, I love how your scientific mind, um, I value that because I
Thank
can't
you.
retain all those words and all the doctors' names and things like that necessarily. I can write about them and then forget them.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of at that level. I gravitate to people like I use my intuition, like somebody, I'm just going to say this neutrally, not to bring up any triggers on the politics, but
Yeah.
Bobby Kennedy Jr.,
Yeah.
I've heard him say years ago, like, I can read the science. So a lot of people, not only do they not take the time, they don't really know how to read, know how to evaluate the studies, because there's different ways that they can put together the studies, which when you know that right away, you can disqualify the validity just right off the bat.
Yeah, exactly. I have other friends like you who have that ability, and then um, yeah, and they go, no, no, this doesn't. This is throw this one out within 3 pages or whatever. Oh, but it's so good, and thank you for sharing because from your experience, other people learn,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, totally. I think there's a lot of women going through menopause right now. And, women I've had clients for years going through hormone issues, coming to me for help with hormone issues. And I had specific ways that I helped them. But I didn't understand back then the depth of what I understand now. And as we just said, it's kind of going back to the root cause is toxicity, maybe healing your gut and your liver, which you never took the time to do, despite having great intentions, a good diet, paying attention to things. It's an uphill battle in the world we live in with toxicity. We just really need to stay on it and, pay attention to things, keep our mind open, and work with each other. Definitely work with each other.
Yeah. But when you get those signals that something doesn't ring true,
Yeah.
please honor that and
Yes.
find someone else and call someone else in through your knowingness, saying, if it's not me who's looking at this, who else can I, and don't stop the search.
Yeah.
I remember going in, I don't know if this was after my emergency surgery or after or before, but my tests came back with low testosterone. And she goes, "Wow, this is really low." And I said, "Yeah." And she said, well, very snippetly, and I have a lot of experience with snippy doctors since I was
Oh,
in college.
oh,
Um, yeah, my first gynecologist was very snippy,
oh.
and then she apologized. They always end up apologizing at some point. Or I just don't go to them. Um,
Yes.
but she said, "Well, all this can go away if you just go on vacation with your husband."
Oh, God. Yep. It's all in your mind.
And I was just like, "Wait, I'm talking to another woman who's saying this. This is a program, man. This is
Yeah.
this is not right. This is
Yeah.
like nothing was truly heard, or it's there in the paperwork. It
Yeah.
says it in the paperwork. This is my
Yeah.
body."
Yes.
And she goes, "Well, the studies." And I just went, "Oh my God." Yeah.
Yeah.
And just because they say the studies, it all depends where it's funneled through,
Hmm.
who it's serving, what industry it's serving, what company it's serving, and how much they paid for it.
Yeah. Yes.
And what are the back
Exactly.
doors into it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or out of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this was a great discussion in this realm of divine feminine, right?
Yes.
The world of that. Thanks for your time, Karen. And so we'll put your information underneath. Do you want to describe any of your healing work at all, or do you want to save that for another time?
Well, I can briefly say
Sure.
what I'm focusing on these days is I am, as you know, a certified emotion code and body code practitioner that is basically using kinesiology to find root causes of challenges for my clients. I work very well as part of a team if you're already working with a natural practitioner, but I can be led in sessions to toxicity, to different pathogens, to nutrition and lifestyle. And because of what I've done for the last more than a decade, I'm well and have certifications in all kinds of things like herbs and iridology, and it's on my website. I'm well suited to both use, I wouldn't call it intuition. I like to say I'm having a conversation with the client's subconscious or spirit, who's given me permission, but basically, yeah, guided to all different answers could come up in the sessions. And one thing I created a new program 3 months ago, a few months ago, that's a 3 month program working with clients. And I've started to do that where it's over multiple sessions because you just, as you know, you can do so much more when a client commits to multiple sessions. So I really am trying to focus on what is the biggest thing that is triggering you on a daily basis, like why getting at the confidence, the self-image, getting drawn back into childhood traumas and dealing with those. So I work energetically like you do, and I've got the ways that I do my clearings. I focus on the clearings, but then I also really try to focus on the coaching, which could involve, it doesn't have to be health coaching. It could be lifestyle. It could be mindset coaching to make sure clients have tools. So I really just am trying to empower the people that resonate with working with me, just like I know you are with your client base. And
Yeah.
we'll find a way to work together.
At some point, yes. It's all coming together. I got to get my book out. And in the
Yes, you
meantime,
do.
I'm doing the videos and allowing people to see, pretty much my circle
Mhm.
and then some. I've got some other people that are new friends that I want to bring in and um, introduce my support team in a way.
Thank
And
you for having me on. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you again.
absolutely. I'm glad you found the timing for it, right? You stepped into the timing. So I will post whatever information you provide in the
Okay.
intro below this video. And so, Karen, thank you again. May you always find peace. I love you so much.
It's right back at you, sister.
Yeah, love your wisdom. Love your wisdom. All right, be
Thank
well.
you. You
You're
too.
welcome. All right, bye
Bye.
bye.